All right, welcome back to the Say That podcast, a podcast for Wingstop, by Wingstop, and about all things Wingstop. And today I'm your host, Donnie Upshaw, and today we're going to talk Veterans Day and honor our veterans. And no better way to do that than highlight one of our very own, Buddy Francisco, who's our VP of Market Execution. And U.S. Army National Guard veteran who served over 21 years and earning a Bronze Star of Excellence and was deployed in Iraq. So quite the resume, buddy. Welcome to the pod, man.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. This is really important, I think, for us to just take some time to say thank you, number one, to you and your family for their service. And then to all those veterans out there that are Flavor fans and alike. Thank you for your service. We really appreciate it. And it's really important that we take the time to talk about the stories, talk about the resilience and your journey, and how you got to where you are today. And would love to hear just perspective around all things National Guard and Army and then your Wingstop journey as well. So and everything in between. So first, got to hit the hard-hitting question. What's your favorite flavor?
Yeah. Right now, I would say definitely spicy Korean Q.
Okay.
But you got to do it with some blue cheese.
Blue cheese. Wow. First blue cheeser on the pod. We make that house-made in restaurant every single day, so go get the ranch of blue cheese. We're famously known for that. Okay, buddy. So you spent more than 21 years in the National Guard, eventually retiring as a major. That's an incredible journey. So let's talk. Take us back. So talk to us about what prompted you to enlist and what that journey was like over your 21 years.
Yeah. Well, first off, my dad served in the Army for over 20 years.
Thanks, Pops.
Absolutely. And he did it for a couple really important reasons. Number one, to take care of his family.
Yeah.
But number two, it was his path to citizenship.
Yeah.
And so, he seemed like a guy that had his stuff straight as I was growing up. So I figured, why not follow in his path? And it's kind of funny how service can sometimes end up being a family tradition of sorts.
Yeah.
So I've got my father and also my nephew who served in the Army.
Very cool. Very cool. So what inspired you when you obviously seeing your dad go through his journey? What was that day like when you said, you know what, I'm going to follow in his footsteps, and what prompted that?
Yeah, I definitely didn't initially see myself joining the military. My dad was gone a lot, and I really grew up not understanding why and not really appreciating why. But then as I got older, I did. But really the ultimate catalyst, and a lot of people don't know this, the reason why I enlisted is because I dropped out of college.
Oh, wow.
Eventually went back and finished.
Of course.
But I was a little more focused on finding future Mrs. Francisco and playing football. And I didn't do much studying and going to class. So nothing like Army basic training and a drill sergeant in your face to get your priorities straight.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what surprised you most about that basic training and that first kind of couple months experience when you joined?
Yeah, military training in general, always scared out of my mind initially going in. There's a lot of unknown.
Sure.
But I pretty quickly fell in love with the leadership aspect, the camaraderie, and really just the adrenaline of the military.
Yeah.
Today I basically like riding roller coasters, and it drives my kids nuts. But I like riding roller coasters because that's the only way I can kind of get that fix from jumping out of airplanes in the military. And now riding roller coasters, it's much safer.
Sure. Yeah. Well, okay. So talk to me about the lessons, the early on lessons that you learned once you joined. You talked about, hey, like I decided to, drop out of college. I wasn't focused at the time on the things I should have been focused on, but the Army shifted that for me. I'd love to hear kind of those early lessons and when you realized like this clicked for you and then started to really gain your leadership capabilities and your from the training that the Army was able to provide you.
Yeah, I was real fortunate to really get to do some really cool things. So that's one thing I'm super thankful for. I would have never gotten to meet the people that I met, do so many rewarding things. Top of the list I mentioned earlier is jumping out of aircraft.
Yeah.
I miss dearly hanging out of a Black Hawk with my feet dangling on the side.
Yeah.
But aside from that, really gaining perspective and insight into leadership and learning leadership on the fly.
Yeah.
I held 3 commands, and every time I took that as really an honor. Soldiers, they want to know their leader has their best interests in mind.
Yeah.
They want to follow somebody that they can be proud of, and I didn't take that lightly.
Yeah.
So putting that into perspective, at 28 years old, getting my first command, that was a quick, steep learning curve,
Sure.
especially going into a war zone.
Yeah.
And so all those lessons through adversity are really what shaped me in my perspective today.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Is there a story, your favorite story of your time, over 2 decades in the military that comes top of mind for you?
There's so many that I really learned from, but oddly, it was kind of times where I failed and where I struggled. And sometimes folks can get bogged down in that. I'd be lying to say that I had 21 years of impeccable service where I made the right decision every single time. I'd be lying if I told you I did that in my civilian career.
Yeah.
But, being in an environment where you can learn, and failure to a certain point
Sure.
helps you progress.
Yeah.
But yeah, I made some foolish decisions in my career and maybe represented myself not in the best way in terms of like how I showed up in front of others. Specifically, when you're a young lieutenant, you think, oh, I got to be gung-ho and show the soldiers how upset I am over the situation. When you kind of go through life and you realize, well, I can actually show them the importance of the situation without kind of losing my cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are some of the
valuable lessons, though, I'd imagine, that you apply to your role even today. You were in the military for over 2 decades. Talk to me about what got you up every morning. That's a lot of commitment. What kept you motivated during that time?
Yeah, it was being in the Army National Guard. They call you a citizen soldier. So you manage 2 careers. And it was tough, to be honest. I didn't sleep a lot. I still don't sleep a lot today. Get up really early. But first, I'd be remiss if I didn't give my wife credit for just the support that she gave me throughout all those years.
What's her name?
Brittany.
Brittany. Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah. And she kept me going. I almost got out at 13 years, and she was like, I don't think you should. You're going to regret this.
Yeah.
And I ended up serving almost 22 years and really served that long because of her support. But really, I had to love both aspects. And so I loved what I was doing in my civilian career. I would love what I was doing in terms of leadership and command of troops. So I think that's the first, little glean of insight I would say. To do it for that long, you got to love it.
Yeah.
And I would say there was many aspects where the success in both careers were complementary of one another.
Yeah.
Meaning, as a commander that wore a uniform, the slogan is 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer. It's much more than that. Don't listen to the commercial. But what made me appealing as a commander in uniform was my success in corporate America.
Yeah.
And then in corporate America, what made me appealing was wearing of the uniform.
Sure.
One story I'll share is I was missing from a pretty important meeting, and somebody asked, like, well, where's Buddy? We need him to weigh in. And my boss at the time goes, Buddy's jumping out of an airplane somewhere serving a country. Full stop.
Yeah.
And that ended that question.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's a good hall pass for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. So it sounds like, valuable lessons you've learned throughout the years that you've been able to apply to both, obviously, your time in the military, but also in environments like this, like at Wingstop. I'd love to understand your perspective. You've led, troops through some intense challenges. Like, how has that experience shaped your approach to leading people in this environment today as a VP of market execution?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll say that leadership principles are the same. And I'll even throw a third dynamic in there because having, kids that play a lot of sports and have helped coach, But I would say, leading troops, leading business professionals, and coaching kids, the principles are very much the same. And what I'll share there is everybody at all those levels, they want constructive, actionable feedback.
Yeah.
In a manner that helps them grow, that is quantifiable and comes from a place of helping you become better. The second one is they all want a leader that they can take pride in, right? And so you got to have that respect, and we always say sweep the floor.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to work for a leader that doesn't sweep the floor.
That's right. Lead by example. Yeah.
And then everybody wants to be part of a team that they know has their back. And so that's probably one of the most valuable things I got out of the military, that really influences how I lead today.
Yeah. Teamwork is another obviously really important part. Especially with a group of troops, you're only as good as your platoon or your group, right? And so for you, how do you apply that into your work at Wingstop around the teamwork aspect that you've been able to, just your experience in the military? How have you been able to apply the teamwork aspect to Wingstop?
Yeah. What the military does really well, at least through my experience, is you really understand your role and the cross-functional interdependencies. And it's easier to understand because I guess in that environment, if you mess up, it's life or limb.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
is that a military term, life or limb?
Yeah.
Okay.
We would say that quite often. And we sell chicken at Wingstop.
Yeah, we don't take ourselves too seriously.
It's
right?
not life or limb for us.
That's right.
It is for the chicken. But to understand those interdependencies, that we are a holistic team. We can't operate in silos. And as it applies to my job, you can't grow AUVs if you open bad stores.
Yeah.
And then understanding that, it sounds simple, but really reinforcing that with a team. And you can't build good stores if you pick bad sites. And then so forth. You can't pick good sites if you don't write good development agreements.
Yeah.
And so understanding that circle and that interdependency, and that's true, across the entire company. But if as a leader, you don't draw those correlations on how you truly all do depend on one another.
Sure.
So that, that's what the military did well. And that's helped me lead through Wingstop as well.
That's great. I'm sure you've had a ton of mentors throughout your time. What do you remember the most, or what's the most valuable lesson you've learned from one of your mentors, whether it be your father, set an example before you, or someone that you've looked up to in the military? Is there an example of something that you want to share that your mentor shared with you?
Yeah. Man, I've had a lot of really, really good leaders that really invested in me. And that's quite frankly one of the things that I love about leadership in the military and outside the military. What's always been, I guess, instilled and shared with me with leaders was invest the time. And, they always made the time for me. And quite frankly, sometimes I didn't think I needed it. And somebody pulled me aside and gave me that pep talk. Today, folks reach out to me for one-on-one time at Wingstop.
Yeah.
And I never say no.
Yeah.
We try to find time for it. And so to me, that's I know it's broad and it's not a super specific answer, but through the compilation of my career, I would just say I've been successful and have found success both on the military and civilian side because somebody took 15, 30 minutes out of their day to talk.
Time to invest. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. What helps you stay grounded when things get tough? You've had obviously a lot of adversity that you faced, even starting with, trying to figure out your path while you're in college, right? So what's kept you grounded through all the adversity, whether it be civilian or in your time in the military?
Yeah. For me, I've always got to remind myself and look at the greater cause. And for me, that's my family and the team that I work with. In anything you do, if you're doing it just for a paycheck, then that's probably a pretty difficult situation.
Sure.
If you can't find that greater cause. And then also perspective. One story I'll share with once upon a time, I had a coworker in my prior company say to me, the only reason why you're going to get promoted before me is because you were in the military. Literally said that and was kind of condescending when that was shared. And I go, well, yeah, you're right. Because when I was 28 years old, in charge of 207 soldiers in Iraq, that doesn't mean anything. She immediately apologized for her comment.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you're out here keeping us safe.
But, that really, I guess, made me grow up really quick. It makes you thankful for what you have in life. And in that moment, it's like, man, we talk about leadership all the time at Wingstop.
Yeah.
And it'll never be that drastic and that dire to where you're going to have 207 soldiers in Iraq. But that helps give me perspective in what I do today.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be that grand of a purpose, but we do have a purpose and we do have a mission here that we all got to work towards.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Talk to me a little bit about, your role here, VP of Market Execution. If you can just give a little bit of insight around your responsibilities at a high level.
Yeah, it's funny. It's one of my favorite questions, actually, because when I meet folks, they're like, VP of Market Execution, like, what is that?
I figured it'd be good to give a little context.
Yeah. So quite simply put, franchising, real estate, construction, and design. And, Marisa puts it well. She's like, you're in charge of signing to ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do for the company.
Yeah, get those restaurants open.
Yep.
That's right. Okay, you've been on the military side, obviously, on the corporate side. I would love your perspective on what you think companies can do better to support veterans, especially as they think about transitioning out of the military into a corporate environment like you've been able to do very successfully.
Yeah. Being part of a team and sense of belonging is really important to me and the veterans that I know. You're kind of just thrust into that, like, you got to get along, your family, whether it's functional or dysfunctional, but you kind of become part of a tribe when you're serving. And so to be able to create that on the corporate side is really important. And then understanding what's important to veterans and also just hearing their story if they're willing to share. Hence, I'm super thankful to be here today.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. What would you say, like, to your younger self now going to have an experience that you've had, all of the, I guess, a couple different lives that you lived. What advice would you give the younger buddy?
Oh, man. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? That's a really good question. I would just say, don't be so hard on yourself when you do fail, because you're gonna fail, and the only way that you're gonna get better is through that failure.
Mm-hmm.
So give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of folks either are afraid to make a mistake, or they really beat themselves up over something that, given time and perspective, will end up being, a minor thing or something that you really glean some great learnings from.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I'll double click into that a little bit because I think society doesn't allow for mistakes, right? They expect individuals to live this perfect life. And so how have you been able to embrace that? And how has the military helped you embrace failure? And we talk here at Wingstop a lot about we want individuals to fail fast, and it's okay to make a mistake. But it's important that when a mistake happens, that the reaction and response is that of embrace and grace, so people do feel comfortable doing that. So I'd love your thoughts there.
Yeah. First disclaimer I'll say is I'm not perfect at it. And it's something that I have to constantly reinforce and remind myself, remind myself that I'm a leader in the org. And so sometimes I can react, and if I take the time to pause and not react right away, I can have a much more positive response to the team.
Sure.
And create that environment and that safe space. And then for those that are in the position where maybe you want to talk to your supervisor about, an instance or a time where a mistake was made, that conversation is terrifying. But I think what you'll find is if you're willing to have the conversation, it can be a really constructive thing, and both you and leader can learn a lot from it.
Yeah. That's good. Advice that a lot of veterans, I hope, are listening to us or will listen. Advice you would give them as they try to think about what's next for them post their military career.
Yeah. I would say take a lot of pride in what you did. You know, you're a, hopefully I can say this, you're a badass.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and don't and don't forget that. And a lot of your skills in the military, while it may not be obvious to you, they're really applicable
Transferable, for sure.
in the civilian world.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure how to navigate that, find somebody, find a friend, find a mentor.
Reach out to buddy.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right. That leads us into another great question for you is, what are you most proud of? Looking back at your career, both in and out of the military, what do you look at today and say, you know what, I'm damn proud of that?
Yeah. Every now and then I get a text message from both on the military and civilian side from somebody that says, "Hey, thanks, for this one time," and sometimes that memory has escaped me.
Yeah.
But I take a ton of pride. Yeah, I did a lot of cool stuff and did, X, Y, and Z.
Jumped out of planes.
Yeah, but I take a lot of pride in the careers that I've helped.
Yeah.
That random text message from somebody that I hadn't talked to in years that just says, or, via socials, that says, "Hey, thank you for this one time and what you invested in me." To me, that is like the real gem, so to speak, of leadership, the real prize.
Yeah, that's great. What does Veterans Day mean to you personally?
Yeah, for me, I do take a lot of pride for the service that I did have, and my family's service for that matter. As I said earlier, it's a little bit of a family tradition. So take a lot of pride in that. Man, I made a lot of really great friends in the process and met some really phenomenal leaders. And so Veterans Day just reminds me of the great and difficult things that I did, but I did that with some really amazing people.
Yeah.
So it just reminds me, hey, reach out to that friend that you haven't talked to in a little while and say thank you.
I love that. Is there something you want to say to your fellow veterans right now?
Yeah. Just thank you for your service. Celebrate your service. And I think a lot of veterans don't celebrate in an appropriate way, and maybe they're shy to take pride in what they did. But what you did for our country truly is special, and you should celebrate that and take a lot of pride in it.
I love that. That's great. Well, it's been great hearing your stories and your perspective on both, your time in the military, obviously, and then your time climbing a corporate ladder. Is there anything else, like, just top of mind that you think is important as you think about leadership and what you learned in the military and how you apply it today that you want to share that we haven't talked about?
I think well covered, but I would just say perspective, experience, reps, and perspective. What may seem terrifying or like a really bad mistake today, sometimes turns out it was something that you could really learn from and get better down the road. So just remember that perspective and don't let that kind of paralyze you in the process.
I love that. That's great. And if it's not life or limb, right? That's perspective.
Yes.
That is real perspective. Well, buddy, it's been great. I appreciate you taking some time to spend with us and talk about your story. Thank you again very much for your time that you served. We appreciate it. The country appreciates it. Wingstop appreciates it. And so we definitely want to make sure you're celebrated. Thank you for tuning in to all our listeners. Thank you to all our veterans out there. Please subscribe, follow us, YouTube, Spotify, wherever podcasts you may listen to or watch. Please check us out. We'll see you next time. Peace.